In the history of bodybuilding, some names shine bright and others slowly faded with time. Today, we're bringing back the story of one of those giants, a man who marked generations with his discipline, passion, and unforgettable presence. His life was about way more than muscle. It was about dedication, sweat, and an endless pursuit of perfection. He was an athlete who lived fully and left behind a legacy that still inspires today. So, you know the drill. Grab your pre-workout and join us on this trip back in time. Don Peters was born on August 5, 1936, in California, back when bodybuilding was just starting to take shape as a sport. From a young age, he showed an unusual level of determination, always chasing discipline in everything he did. It didn't take long before training wasn't just a hobby. It became a true lifestyle. That relentless dedication would become his trademark throughout his entire journey. He spent almost his whole life living and training in Venice, right at the legendary Muscle Beach, a spot that would become the birthplace of modern bodybuilding. Out there, young athletes showed off their sculpted physiques under the California sun, drawing crowds and building a one-of-a-kind community. For Don, being in that environment meant not just grinding through tough workouts, but also being part of a culture that shaped an entire generation of champions. Venice in the 1960s was vibrant, full of energy, competition, and ambition. It was there that Don found both inspiration and brotherhood, surrounded by people who, like him, believed strength and aesthetics could go hand in hand. Just picture it, a beachside hangout buzzing with determined young lifters, and in the middle of it all, Don Peters, carving out his own legacy. Beyond being an athlete, Don was known as a disciplined, perfectionist kind of guy. Good enough wasn't in his vocabulary. Whatever he set his mind to, he pushed for the highest quality possible. That mindset showed not only in his training routines, but also in his personal life. From diet to daily habits, Don lived with laser-sharp focus on doing things right. And here's something many people don't know. Don was also a skilled craftsman. He built furniture with precision and care, proving that his pursuit of perfection went way beyond the bodybuilding stage. That talent reflected his character, someone who valued patience, detail, and well-crafted work. His home, in fact, became known for that unique personal touch. One of his standout projects was his own home gym, carefully designed and built by hand. That wasn't just about convenience. It was proof of his passion and innovative mindset. While most athletes relied on public or commercial gyms, Don turned his house into a true temple of bodybuilding, a space where he could train hard and consistently. Don Peters officially kicked off his bodybuilding career in 1965, marking the start of nearly 2 decades of competitive dedication. He entered the scene at a time when the sport was still finding its place, but already showing signs of growth and professionalism. From day one, Don stood out, not just for his physical strength, but also for his charisma and discipline, which made him a respected figure among his peers. One of the first big highlights came in 1966, when he won the IFBB Mr. International title as overall champion. That victory put him on the international map and proved he could compete at a very high level. For someone still early in his career, it was a major accomplishment, showing that his potential stretched far beyond the local scene. The following year, Don added more big wins to his resume, including Mr. Los Angeles and Mr. Southern California in 1967. These regional titles were considered crucial stepping stones for athletes aiming to establish themselves nationally. It was around this time that his name really began to circulate strongly in the bodybuilding community, earning him respect and admiration on and off stage. But his peak came between 1968 and 1969, when he captured the IFBB Mr. America Tall Division title 2 years in a row. Those back-to-back victories are remembered as defining moments of his career, cementing him as one of the top athletes of the golden era. In 1969, he also took home the Mr. Western America title, further proving his dominance. Even after that golden stretch, Don kept going strong for years. In 1978, he made a comeback and won the Pro Mr. America title from the WBBG, taking both the tall division and the Masters 40-plus class. That one showed not only his longevity in the sport, but also his ability to stay in top shape and competitive even as the years went by. In the years that followed, he kept showing up at Masters competitions, scoring notable placements like at the 1982 Mr. California Masters, and he stayed active until 1983, when he stepped onto major stages like Mr. Universe. His persistence revealed just how deep his passion for the sport ran. His love for bodybuilding wasn't limited to a short peak, but stretched across his whole athletic life. Outside the stage lights, Don was also a familiar face in the pages of bodybuilding magazines. Between 1968 and 1983, he was featured in publications like Muscle Builder, Muscle Digest, and Mr. America. Those magazines not only documented his career, but also helped keep his image alive as one of the standout athletes of his generation. Don Peters' physique was often described as balanced and harmonious, a look that grabbed attention the moment he stepped on stage. His build showed clear proportions, thick arms, a full chest, and wide lats that radiated power. Many experts back then believed his body was ahead of its time, foreshadowing standards that wouldn't be fully appreciated until years later. Still, critics pointed out that his legs, while strong, didn't match the same level of detail and definition as the rest of his body. That small gap might have been the reason he never snagged an even bigger crown, like Mr. Olympia. If there was one thing that defined Don Peters, though, it was his obsession with training. He believed results came from absolute intensity. His style was built around high-volume workouts with countless sets and reps, always pushing to muscular failure. Unlike most lifters who rested 2 or 3 minutes between sets, Don cut his rest to the bare minimum, keeping his body in a constant state of stress. That approach demanded not just strength, but serious mental toughness. His workouts could last 2 straight hours at a relentless pace. Imagine spending that much time pushing your body to the brink, set after set, without compromise, just squeezing out every ounce of effort from each muscle fiber. That kind of commitment wasn't just physical, it was psychological too, showing how Don treated bodybuilding as a personal mission, not just a pastime. His program was carefully structured. 3 times a week, he zeroed in on lats and arms, heavy wide-grip pull-downs, brutal rows, endless variations of curls, and skull crushers for triceps. It was an arsenal of moves aimed at widening his back and building arms that looked carved out of stone. That strategy gave him the symmetry and balance judges and fans couldn't ignore. On the other days, he shifted focus to chest and shoulders, decline presses, cable flies, dips, lateral raises, front raises, and heavy overhead presses. This combo packed size and shape onto his upper torso, creating that towering look that dominated the stage. Don understood that intensity and variety were key to keeping progress alive, so he constantly worked new angles and movements into his routine. Of course, training was only half the equation. Peters kept a razor-sharp focus on diet too. For him, nutrition and lifting were inseparable. Every meal was designed to fuel muscle growth and provide enough energy for his grueling sessions. His consistency at the table reflected his athlete's mindset. Nothing left to chance, every detail planned in the pursuit of perfection. That disciplined way of living made Don the poster child for consistency. He proved bodybuilding wasn't just about genetics or brute strength. It was about daily discipline, relentless detail, and personal growth. Don's personal life was deeply tied to the vibrant world of the Golden Era. He was part of the tight-knit circle in Venice, California, the very birthplace of modern bodybuilding. This was the scene where future legends like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sergio Oliva came up, and Don wasn't just a background figure. He was right there, an active part of that history. His house even became iconic within that world. More than a home, it was almost a headquarters for bodybuilding. Inside, there was a fully equipped gym where athletes trained, pushed each other, and traded knowledge. There was also a pool table. Don loved to play and almost always won. And a pool, the perfect spot to unwind after crushing workouts. His home became a true hub for the community. That atmosphere reflected Don's own personality, open, competitive, but always welcoming. It wasn't unusual to see major names hanging out there, and plenty of young hopefuls dreamed of being part of that circle. The fact that his place became a landmark shows not only the respect he earned among his peers, but also his generosity in opening his space to others who shared his passion. One of the most talked about stories from those years involves his friendly rivalries with Arnold Schwarzenegger offstage. Both were charismatic figures, and they didn't just compete for trophies. They also competed for female attention. These anecdotes bring a human side to the tale, showing that beyond being disciplined athletes, they were young men living the wild energy of the 60s and 70s. Still, there was always mutual respect. They even shared the stage at competitions, proving that rivalry never outweighed camaraderie. Outside of bodybuilding, Don also stood out for his dedication to everything he touched. His talent as a craftsman was well known and admired. He designed and built furniture with the same care and perfectionism he brought to his workouts. This side of his life revealed an artistic, creative streak that often went unnoticed, but it completed the picture of who he really was. That eye for detail showed up in all areas of his life. Whether it was the way he organized his daily routine, the way he handled his diet, how he built his training space, or even how he cultivated friendships, Don always carried a standard of excellence. He seemed to believe that no matter what the task was, it deserved to be done in the best possible way. That philosophy guided him both on stage and in everyday life. Don Peters wasn't just a bodybuilding competitor. He was also a host, a loyal friend, and a man who valued discipline in every aspect of his life. He may not have taken home the biggest crowns like Mr. Olympia or Mr. Universe, but his importance goes far beyond trophies. He's remembered as a consistent, disciplined athlete who loved the sport, someone who stayed committed to both physical and personal growth for nearly 2 decades. His story proves that greatness isn't always about the podium. It's also about consistency and the impact you leave on others. He represented a pre-Arnold generation, often overlooked, but absolutely essential for understanding how bodybuilding became what it is today. Pioneers like Don laid the groundwork, building the culture, identity, and spirit of a sport that was still fighting for space and recognition. In California's scene of the 60s and 70s, Peters was part of a movement that shaped history. His presence at Venice Beach, his relentless training style, and his perfectionist mindset made him a living symbol of a time when everything was still being written. And it's exactly that era, full of experimentation, challenges, and passion, that inspired the champions who came after. Don's legacy is deeply human. He was more than muscles and trophies. He was a friend, a host, a creator, someone who understood that discipline and dedication weren't limited to bodybuilding, but applied to life as a whole. That worldview makes him even more relevant as an inspiration for anyone chasing growth, whether inside or outside the gym. Don Peters passed away on March 16, 2001, leaving behind years of devotion to the sport and a life defined by discipline and passion. But his story doesn't end there. It lives on through the legacy he built, the example he left, and the inspiration he continues to spark in those who seek to grow, not just physically, but as people. When we look back on his story, we realize Don Peters is an important link between bodybuilding's past and present. He proves that every generation matters, and that even those who don't reach the ultimate spotlight can leave lasting marks. Maybe that's why, when we talk about Don, we're not just remembering an athlete. We're celebrating a philosophy: never give up, always strive for the best, and turn passion into legacy. And now I'll throw it back to you. What part of Don's story sticks with you the most? Is it his discipline, his creativity outside the stage, or the fact that he was a true pillar of classic bodybuilding? Think about it, because lessons like these can go way beyond the gym and reach every corner of our daily lives. If you enjoyed learning more about Don Peters, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this one. Make sure you turn on the notification bell, and if you want to support us even more, consider becoming a channel member. And of course, drop a comment below. Which part of Don Peters' journey impressed you the most? Your discipline, his creativity, or the fact that he helped shape the golden era? Your voice matters to us. On the final screen, you'll find another video about a great name in bodybuilding history that will definitely inspire you too. So don't waste time. Click and keep going with us on this journey through the sport's glorious past and the stories that made bodybuilding what it is today. See you in the next video.